Hi everybody, TJ Mack of Vintage Cards and Nostalgia here. I hope all is well. In today's video, I want to take you inside a vision that I have. The next chapter in how I display and share my collection. Now many of you have seen glimpses of my family room before, the card cases, the magazine rack, each a part of a growing story I've been quietly building over the past several years. Now what started as a love for sports cards has deepened into something much richer. I'm now blending cards and magazines into one cohesive narrative of sports history, nostalgia, and culture. Eventually, my wife and I are going to move out of our current home and move into a smaller home once our kids get older. That's still some years away. But just like I do in the house that I have now, I'm going to have a dedicated card room that pays tribute to the sports and the memories that shaped the person that I am. I'll have the players that I learned about from my grandfather, father, and father-in-law all along the walls on display cases, just as you see here. But one thing I want to do different is I plan to have a large display that brings together the vibrancy of my vintage card collection along with the storytelling power of my old magazines. A space where every item speaks to a moment in time. Today I'm going to show you a concept of what I plan to do, what this vision will one day become. I'm going to share cards from my collection from 1976, the cards that you've been seeing now. But rather than it just being cards, I want to give you an idea of how I plan to weave together stories through my displays. While I was only 2 years old in 1976 and don't remember anything, I was still influenced by that time. I had an older brother and cousin who had these cards, so I grew up seeing them. I was immersed with the movies of the era, such as Rocky, The Outlaw Josie Wales, and the horror movie Carrie, as well as the TV shows that were part of my childhood, like Happy Days, Charlie's Angels, and MASH. Now, as longtime viewers know, my collection spans baseball, football, and hockey cards from the 1930s through 1989. But the heart of it lies in the golden decades from the 1950s to the 1980s, where I have nearly every key card in football and baseball from 1956 to 1989, and I'm working on the hockey collection from that time as well. Now, in recent years, I've slowed down my collecting pace. I'm averaging around 100 graded cards over the past few years and 11 magazines a year. And this year, I'm on pace to add about 80 graded cards and maybe about 10 magazines. And that's okay. I'm focused more on refining and curating my collection. I just don't want it to be a collection assembled of just various cards, but I want it to be rather a canvas for storytelling. When I create a display like this, I want it to reflect not just the Hall of Famers, but also the players who were truly influential during that specific year. You can't revisit 1976 without including Mark Fidrich and Burt Jones, arguably the two most electrifying figures in their respective sports at the time. And then there's also Pete Rose and Johnny Bench from the Big Red Machine, who led the team to a World Series victory. You've got the 1976 American League MVP, Thurman Munson, Ken Stabler and Cliff Branch from the Raiders, who won the Super Bowl that year, Jim Hart of the high-scoring Air Coryell Cardinals offense. In hockey, you'll see Guy Lafleur from the Canadiens, alongside Bernie Parent and Bobby Clark of the Flyers. Those two teams met in the Stanley Cup Finals that year, with the Canadiens winning in a 4-game sweep. The Steelers had the legendary Steel Curtain. They also make an appearance, highlighting Rocky Bleier and Franco Harris both 1,000-yard rushers that season. This display, it brings all those moments vividly back to life. As I mentioned before, the possibilities for display themes are endless. Here I have incorporated 2 different magazines from 1976, alongside a mix of cards from the same year. You'll see the core of the Big Red Machine again here, but instead of just Rose and Bench, I've added Joe Morgan and Tony Perez. Nearby are O.J. Simpson, Bobby Orr, who are arguably the most popular players along with Pete Rose in each of their sports at that time. The World Hockey Association, the WHA, was thriving then as a rival to the NHL, as its biggest stars were Bobby Hull and Gordie Howe. On the magazine here featuring Franco Harris, it mentions how he and Lydell Mitchell were once again 1,000-yard rushing teammates. Right beside the magazine are their 1976 Topps cards. Above them is a nod to football's past and present. The silver-haired George Blanda, now known more for his kicking than his passing, on his last Topps card. Next to him is the star of the moment, the Snake, Ken Stabler, who would soon lead the Raiders to a Super Bowl. I've also included up top the Doomsday Defense, Ed Too Tall Jones, Harvey Martin, and Randy White, all captured on their 1976 rookie cards. From the world of goaltending, I brought in 3 of the best from that year: Bernie Parent, Ken Dryden, and Tony Esposito. Right next to them are 3 legendary pitchers: Steve Carlton, Jim Palmer, and Tom Seaver, who dominated the mound during that era. I've even assembled a third display using 2 magazines from my father-in-law's collection, featuring the Sixers' George McGinnis and the Vikings' Fran Tarkenton. Now I might have to start adding some basketball cards to my collection. Who knows where this path might lead. But this particular display is built around the standout players from the different cities during that time. In St. Louis, you had Jim Hart and Lou Brock. In LA, you had Marcel Dion, Nolan Ryan, and Steve Garvey, who ruled the scene. Over in Oakland, they were truly in a golden era. You had Raleigh Fingers and Reggie Jackson, the Snake, and Cliff Branch. Buffalo was captivated by O.J. Simpson on the gridiron, and Gilbert Perreault dazzling fans at the Odd with his end-to-end rushes. Minnesota had Fran Tarkenton and Rod Carew. And as you can see on the Sport magazine, Tarkenton was named Sports Performer of the Year. In Montreal, there was a young Gary Carter who was emerging behind the plate, while Ken Dryden continued to dominate in goal. In Pittsburgh, the Steel Curtain ruled football, but the Pirates with the Cobra and Pops were building towards their own shining moment in 1979. And in Baltimore, there was a fun debate. Who had a better arm, Burt Jones or Jim Palmer? In Philadelphia, you had Bobby Clark and Mike Schmidt, 2 of the very best in their respective sports. And down in San Diego, fans got to see Dave Winfield hitting rockets over the wall, while young Dan Fouts was developing into one of the most prolific quarterbacks of the late 70s and early 80s. All of this, the players, the moments, the culture, it comes together in these displays. And that, more than anything, is what excites me most as a collector. The ability to bring history to life and relive the spirit of a time gone by. This to me is the true essence and joy of collecting. It's not just about owning the pieces of cardboard or paper, It's about preserving the echoes of time, capturing the pulse of a decade, a year, an era, a moment, and creating a window through which we can remember, reflect, and reconnect. I don't know when I'll fully build this stream display. There's no rush, but it'll get done. Part of the joy is in the journey. That's something that I always try to emphasize, because I think that's how great collections are built, those that are built over time, carefully. And in slowly building something like that, it's put together something that I'll enjoy in retirement. I picture myself adjusting displays week by week, who knows, maybe even day by day, savoring the chance to celebrate different moments in sports history over and over again. For now, I'll keep sharing these glimpses of that vision with you. I'm going to keep collecting, curating, and remembering. And I hope you'll continue to join me for the ride. Have a great weekend until we talk again.